Bama's number one in basketball. Auburn's number one in basketball. We're going to settle it on the court, Tuscaloosa, game day, Saturday. But there's a game for both teams in between. Can we get there fast enough? We're going to talk about all that. Catfish courtside. There is the old cat sitting right next to me. Roll Tide, everybody. Let's go. All right, there he is, Chad Anderson. That's the Catfish. I'm Mick Gillespie. Thanks for being here on the channel. Bama held on against Arkansas. Another one of those games, had the big lead, let it slip, came back to win, though. Auburn got beaten by Florida, who couldn't miss a shot. Florida looked like they looked like an NBA team. And then Clemson beats Duke, and we get the poll today, and boom. I mean, look at this. Like, the first one came out,
Wow.
AP. Auburn loses, stays number one. Bama up to 2. And then the coach just said, Bama's 1, Auburn's 2, Florida's 3, Tennessee's 4. The SEC, baby.
Yeah. And then look a little further down, Texas A&M.
Yep.
9. So 5 teams in the top 10, 4 teams in the top 4. I'll say this, though. Going to the Arkansas game, Nate Oats saw it. I was worried about Arkansas, Mick. Like, I really was, because they had just beaten Kentucky on the road. They demolished Texas on the road.
Yeah.
And it was like, uh-oh, did Calipari figure things out? Like, did this team finally wake up? And the good news is that Alabama had the midweek off, and Arkansas won 2 really impressive games before they played Bama. So Arkansas didn't sneak up on Bama. That's what I love. But Bama almost blew it. You know, we've talked about that and how they get ahead and then they kind of relax a little bit and they didn't maintain intensity. Arkansas almost came back and stole it. That would have been like really a heartbreaker, especially after Auburn had lost, Duke had lost earlier in the day. If you had blown that, that would have been bad. But man, who would have ever thought you have 1v1, 1v2, 2v1, like in the Iron Bowl basketball coming up on Saturday. And then both teams have trap games. Both teams have trap games. Like Vanderbilt for Auburn is not an easy place to play. The Doors, they've already beaten Kentucky. They've already beaten Tennessee, both in Nashville. Bama's got to go to Texas, who beat Texas A&M in Austin.
Right. Huge comeback in that game, too.
Yeah, they were down 20, 22, something like that, came back and won. And so it's who can stay focused. Auburn's got to get back up after a letdown, losing at home, and go on the road. And then they got to go on the road before they go to Tuscaloosa. Bama has to go on the road and just stay focused, knowing that Auburn's on deck and it's for the lead in the SEC.
Right.
Man, it's wild. Like, who would have ever thought? And I was trying to think. I don't know this answer. I don't know if you do. Has Bama Auburn in football ever been 1v2?
I don't know. I don't know.
That. Not in my lifetime. So it would have been maybe like in the 70s or something. But
I bet you it's never happened, man.
I don't know that it's ever, like, you've never had a football game where I'm going to go out on a limb and just say it hasn't happened. So you've never had 1 versus 2 in football. But here you go. You got it in basketball. That's crazy.
I think it's crazy too, man.
But I also think Auburn should be number 1, by the way.
And this is when you told me this, and I was like, "Whoa, you know, this is gonna ruffle some feathers here." This is when Catfish is saying that he thinks Auburn should be number 1.
They should.
Auburn is number 1, but they're also number 2.
Yeah, but they should. I mean, if you think about it, all right, let's look at it. Auburn's 21-2, Bama's 20-3. They're both 9-1 in the SEC. So I go like, this isn't football. It's not a like who lost recently. That's what I always hate about polls. Is polls are more about who lost last week. They automatically have to go down. I actually commend the voters for leaving Auburn at number 1 and also leaving Duke at 3. Because if you think about it, Mick, Auburn's got a 1-game better record than Alabama.
Right.
Auburn's 2 losses at Duke and at home against Florida. Well, they're the 2 teams right below Alabama tied for 3rd. Alabama's 3 losses are on the road at Purdue, who's number 7. They are at home against Ole Miss, who's, I think, barely in the top 25, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then at a neutral site against Oregon, who was a top 12 team, and now they're unranked. So Alabama's losses are clearly worse than Auburn's 2 losses. So I don't understand why people think that Alabama should be number 1. You can compare the victories, but Auburn has fantastic victories this year.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Iowa State out in Maui. They beat Tennessee, who's a top 10 team. They beat Purdue handily in a neutral site. So, or maybe that was actually in Auburn. I can't remember, or Birmingham. But
Right.
the point is, Auburn has fantastic wins. Their losses are not as bad as Alabama's. Not that Bama has bad losses. They just Auburn's lost fewer, and they're the really good teams. Like, to me, it's really not a debate, and you shouldn't be pissed off that Auburn's number 1. And
let me ask you this: are you saying this because you want Bama to be the number 2 team because it's gonna motivate them to disrespect? Are you really saying that you just feel like Auburn's team's just a little bit better than Alabama?
If I think each team is better than the other team on their home floor.
Right.
If you put them in a neutral site, man, I think a lot of people have said that Auburn is a little bit better than Alabama. Not a lot, but a little bit better. I think they are just simply different styles of basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they are about as dead even as possible. Like, if each team was playing their best, I think Alabama's deeper. I think Auburn is a little more disciplined and efficient, meaning they don't turn the ball over as much as Alabama.
Right.
But I think that, I think they're dead even, man. Like, they are so good, both of them. And we're going to find out. I think if you ask me today who's going to win the games, I think Bama wins at home and Auburn wins at home. I think they're going to split the season series. And I don't think you're going to learn anything from it. They could end up meeting in Nashville for the SEC championship. They could end up meeting up in the final. Imagine these 2 teams play in San Antonio against each other.
Right.
The national title for the Final Four semifinal. It's not unrealistic, man. These 2 teams, especially when they're both on, they are extremely, extremely good. And I don't know. There's not a lot of teams that can beat them. If these 2 teams are on, obviously they could lose. But if they're both on, who could beat them? Duke. I mean, Duke's probably the only other one. Like you said, Florida shot the light. They look like Billy Donovan 2007.
Yeah. I sat next to an Auburn fan at the Super Bowl party, and I said, there's just certain games that you're just not going to win. Mm-hmm. And Florida, the way that they shot in that game told me, like, they're winning this game. Like, everything's falling for them. They're winning. There's really nothing that that Auburn could do about it. It's just like, I mean, they were making shots you just don't make, but you're just having that particular, that's your day, it's your game type thing. Yeah. So, I mean, I get that, man. I get that. And I respect you for saying that. I'm going to take the other side and say Bama deserves to be number 1, because the way that's always worked is, if the team's ahead of you lose and you win, you slide up. You don't see a lot where a team loses but still stays number 1, but I get why, and it's because Auburn had only lost 1 game at Duke, right. and
it was close.
And it was close, right? And it was a game where I thought Florida got all the breaks, but they made all the shots. It was their day. But still, I mean, I'm really happy that Alabama's number 1 in the coaches poll, and it makes this matchup. It's so intriguing. It kind of reminds me of Alabama and LSU when Joe Burrow and Tua were quarterbacks. You remember? And it was Bama was number 1 and LSU was number 1, and they were both also number 2. And then they played each other in Tuscaloosa, and unfortunately LSU won that game. But it was like number 1 versus number 1. So I'm billing this as number 1 versus number 1. I'm not billing this as number 2 versus number 2.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I mean, that's the best way to do it, right? You're a marketing genius, Mick. That's what you are.
Number 1.
Don't you know all the ESPN executives Well, I mean, well, yes, of course they love it. But don't you know Saturday night when they were watching Alabama play Arkansas and Duke had already lost? Don't you know that they were begging Alabama to win that game? Because
Oh
you
yeah,
didn't want Bama to lose, and then you got Auburn at number 2, Duke 1, Auburn 2, maybe 3, and then Alabama 5 or 6 or something. Like,
yeah,
you wanted this. The dominoes fell so perfectly for ESPN. The only thing that sucks is it's a 3 o'clock tip. Like, I've never really understood that with basketball. Like, they move football around so easily. They decide the week of the game, and
right.
I don't know why, but this has been predetermined a 3 p.m. game forever. Just if you look, Bama goes to Tennessee March 1st. That game's already slotted for, I think, 11 a.m. Central. Bama
Right.
to Auburn March 8th. That game's already set for 1 p.m. on a Saturday. Bama hosts Kentucky at Coleman on the 22nd. That game's already set for 5 p.m. I'm like, ESPN has the SEC. Like, how are you not just doing shuffling things around? Like, you've got 1 versus 2, and you can't get me. Like, it pisses me off a little because Mick, if this was Duke Carolina, it'd be 7 o'clock, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
prime time, the whole thing all day, just like Alabama, Tennessee last year. 7 o'clock, prime time, game day, the whole deal. 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So I don't know. Maybe there's something else going on. I haven't looked at the gymnastics schedule. Maybe they're that night. They're usually Fridays. I don't know. I'm just like trying to figure it out. But like, how do you not put this game at 7? It just makes no sense to me.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, but look, sometimes you get the primetime game, in basketball at noon, 11 a.m. I mean, that's just the way it works, like,
Yeah,
and
but
that's
why?
where the eyeballs are. Well, some of us go to bed early, and 7's just too late.
Hey, you
Like,
told me you didn't go to bed early last night, so don't give me that, okay?
I didn't. I stayed up late last night. I'm still feeling it a little bit. But you know what? That was because it was a Super Bowl party. All right, let's talk. Nate Oats was disappointed that they had the 18-point lead at Arkansas and then almost give up the game. And he's saying, he said, we're playing to get better on every possession. And when you start playing the scoreboard and you don't play to get better on every possession, that's the stuff that happens to you. Like,
Yep.
it's two things that he said this week that stuck out to me. That's one. And then second, and they asked him about being number one. And he's like, look, I don't politic for that. So you got Bruce Pearl on one end. That's like, hey, we should be number one, even though we lost. We should be number one. And I like Bruce Pearl, and you do too. Like, this isn't football. It's a different rivalry in basketball than it is football. It helps us that Auburn's good because we're going to be good, right? It helps us that the epicenter of college basketball sits squarely in the state of Alabama, right? The Cotton State, boom, the Yellowhammer State, whatever you want to call it. They both count, by the way. We got 2 official state names. The basketball part of it is something that I never thought I would see. I never thought I would see number one and number 2 being in Alabama, right? So with that said, 2 total different styles in approaching being the number 1 team.
Yeah.
And I'm probably I like the Oats one better because you want to be number 1 at the end of the season, but you get a lot of recognition for being number 1 now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Oats, really, if you want to know the truth, I think I said this last show. To me, the Ole Miss game was the best thing that could have happened to this team because they kind of maybe they thought they could sleepwalk through some of these games or something. But the Ole Miss game was such a nice lift and the way they responded to that and how they've responded ever since. And man, Nate Oats to me is also an example of the legacy and the mark that Nick Saban left on the university. Nate Oats sounds like Nick Saban.
Right.
He's talking about who gives a crap what we're ranked. It doesn't matter. The AP poll also has nothing to do with tournament seeding, where you land in the bracket, who's in your bracket, what region you get sent to. It has nothing to do with it. They don't use the AP poll to seed the tournament. And it's really just for us to talk about and to have some bragging rights. But Nate literally just talks about playing to a standard. And it's like, we're up 18, 6 minutes to go in the game, and you let the standard down, and all of a sudden it's a 3-point game. So if you just listen to some of the things he says and the accountability he has on leaders like Mark Sears and Cliff Amore, and on himself, and how Nate will call himself out about not doing a good enough job in practice, not getting the guys prepared, not having their minds right. Like, that to me really shows what a special hire he is and how nice it is to have him.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw this or not, Mick, but he's also not 100% hard ass.
No.
Because did you see the other day what he did as a team event? So they were gonna go hard in practice twice, maybe 2 times, maybe 3. He said we were going to go really hard in practice leading up to Arkansas, and instead they only did once, and I think it was on Monday. They practiced for a little bit, and then they went in, and he took them to mini golf. I think they went to Pop Stroke over there off McFarland, and they played mini golf together as a team. And it's like, we practiced for an hour, and he's like, I took them out. Relax, chill, clear your mind, reset.
Yeah.
And so that's rare, to have a coach that can kind of work both ends of the spectrum that way and be intense, but then also have recognition of, hey, the guys may need a break. They may need to detox for a minute.
Yeah. Well, they did it without Darren Reed, who was injured. I don't think he's going to be out. Yeah, I don't think he's going to be out too long. But this team's really deep. Mark Sears got the hard hat. Good to see him not taking a step back after the LSU game where he didn't play in the second half. But this team's good enough where if you're not playing your best, somebody else is going to slide in there and play for you. Yeah. And I think that the bottom line is that they just want to win. But I've loved watching Clifford Amari, man. That guy is so good around the basket.
Yeah.
We didn't have him last year. And we didn't have him last year.
No, it didn't. Last year, to me, the most frustrating player in my life was somebody who wasn't on the team. I was so mad at Charles Bediako. Charles Bediako, I was like, why did you go to the NBA draft? You were not getting drafted. And he didn't. And I don't even know where the guy is now. I loved Chuck. Yeah. And he was so good at the rim. But anyway, took a shot at the NBA, didn't work out. And Alabama was left with Nick Pringle under the basket last year. And he rarely saw the second half with how many fouls he would get. So, with Amore, it's crazy. We've talked about it. Look at how long the team is with Amore and then Stevenson, who he's got to get it going. Like, he's driving me crazy. But then you got Darian Reed if he's healthy. Grant Nelson is long. Aiden Sherrill. Like, you got all these guys who just provide so much depth and length in the paint and protecting the rim. So it's really, really nice. And Amore, I remember a specific play in the Arkansas game. It was late. He got the ball just outside the post, and he spun, dribbled with his left hand, and dunked it over what they call Big Z in Arkansas in the paint. And it was like, where has that been all year?
Yeah.
Like, he's made alley-oops. He's rebounded. He's defended well, blocked some shots. But he hasn't done, like, put the ball on the floor and dunk it over the other 6'10", 7-footer guy. And that was impressive. We got to see more of that down the stretch.
All right, Texas and Alabama Tuesday night. Let's see here. We got Bama is predicted to win the game, right? It is Tuesday. It's not Monday. Yeah, it's Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday at 8:00. I thought so because I'm looking at it and I said Tuesday, and then I'm like, oh no, that's not Monday. It's Moody Center. I was telling Chad before we went on, my dog accidentally poked me in the eye this morning, so I'm still I'm with one in the eyes right now. Yeah, but Bama's only a 54% chance to win this game. Yeah. SEC games are tough on the road, and you're right. This feels like every bit of a trap game.
Bama and Auburn both. They're going to be tested. Like I said, Auburn goes to Vandy. Memorial's a stupid place to play. I hate that gym. I hate the floor. You hate everything about it. The benches are on the baseline, which is so stupid. Like, everything about it is annoying. And so Auburn's got to go there and play. Vandy's upset 2 top 10 teams there this year. And Bama's got to go to Texas. Texas isn't a team that's like pushing for some, 4 seed or anything, but they're also not a bad team. They're right on the bubble. Every game's important to them. They're on a 2-game losing streak. They lost at home to Arkansas. They lost on the road to Vanderbilt on Saturday. And so, yeah, this is one of those, like, back is against the wall if you're the Longhorns. And they're trying to figure out, all right, how can we make a push to stay in the NCAA tournament field? And a win over number 1 or number 2, whichever one you want to look at, number 1, Alabama is obviously a quad 1 big boost to the resume. So Arkansas was in the same spot, though. Arkansas was the first team out. Had they beaten Alabama, they would have obviously been in. Bama took care of business. But we'll see. I mean, this would be a masterclass of staying focused if Bruce Pearl and Nate Oates can both get out of there with wins, and depending on how you win. But, man, you talk about as a head coach, both of them are extremely challenged with keeping their team focused and motivated on Tuesday.
Guys, I want to tell you that newlifeart.com, we're teaming up with them, and there's our promo code Bama Tailgate, and 25% off the Jalen Hurts print, Crimson Redemption, and 25% off Smitty's that catch that he's making the Heisman Trophy year. So go to newlifeart.com, use our promo code Bama Tailgate, and pimp out your man cave. Do what I'm doing here, and take advantage of it. Now Hurts goes down as one of the great Alabama quarterbacks to leave and go win a Super Bowl. He joins Bart Starr, Joe Namath, and Kenny Stabler to do that, which is really crazy. The other thing I want to tell you guys before
I real quick on Jalen Hurts?
Yes.
Like, I'll be the first to admit, I told friends I would eat my hat if that guy ever won a Super Bowl. Not only did he win the Super Bowl, he won the MVP of the Super Bowl. So, man, I was looking for some barbecue sauce for my hat the other night. Just credit to Jalen, because I was one of the haters for Hurts. I loved him. He did his job, but I just never thought he was going to be what he is in the NFL. And now he's a Super Bowl MVP. Unbelievable. Yeah.
Crazy. No, I got you. Pearl River Resort, Philadelphia, Mississippi. Timeout Sports Lounge. Go throw some money on Bama basketball. Have a little fun over there. Table game slots. We were just there a week ago. It was so much fun. You guys go check it out. Also, Dancing Rabbit Golf Course. We've got great weather, golf weather right now. The Azaleas, the Oaks, it's the Augusta that you can play. So swing over there and check it out. And then finally, but not really finally, there he is right there. The man himself, Mortgage Dad Chad, who, by the way, I loved you on that show with Gloria.
Oh, Tea and Crumpets. Yeah.
Yes.
With Gloria. That was awesome. That was fun to hang out with her and the crew. So, no, appreciate it. Scan the QR code. You know the drill by now, hopefully. 0% down. We've got those programs, literally 20 programs of no down payment required. You can get into a house. I've got someone right now, Mick, they're closing next week. They are getting money back at closing. They are getting their earnest money check back. So they're being given the keys to a brand new home, nothing out of pocket. We've also helped with some home equity lines of credit, people consolidating debt, doing home improvements. Market is picking up. That's all I can tell you. I've been as busy as ever in the last 3 to 4 weeks. So don't get FOMO. Just reach out. Website's there, chadwickanderson.com. Shoot me an email, a text message, a phone call, scan the QR code, whatever you got. Would love to help you out. But we've had some crazy good success stories lately.
Awesome, man. Great stuff there. Great stuff. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, comment section. We're going to be talking hoops. Number 1 team in the country, baby. You got to love that. And big game Saturday in Tuscaloosa. Game day is going to be there. Roll Tide, everybody.
To Pearl River Resort.